Right now, you probably have a number in a banking app that represents your entire financial life. No metal, no paper, just a number you trust completely. But humans didn't always trust numbers. For most of history, they didn't even trust each other's promises. So how did we get from nothing to a system where a piece of plastic can buy a house? The story starts with a problem, not an invention. Before money, people traded directly, goods for goods. But direct trade has a brutal flaw. Say you raise goats and you need shoes. You have to find a shoemaker who happens to want a goat at the exact moment you need shoes. Economists call this the double coincidence of wants, and honestly, it rarely happened. Entire communities were stuck trying to time their needs to someone else's, which meant a lot of very inefficient, very frustrating trading. So people started reaching for something else, an item everyone already valued that could stand in for anything. In parts of Africa, Asia, and the Pacific, that item was a small ocean shell called cowrie. It was durable, easy to count, hard to fake, and light enough to carry. Cowrie shells ended up circulating as currency for more than 4,000 years, longer than any coin or paper bill humans have ever used. But shells only got you so far across long distances and large economies. Around 600 BCE, in the kingdom of Lydia, in what's now western Turkey, something changed. Under King Aliates, craftsmen began stamping standardized lumps of electrum, a natural mix of gold and silver, with an official royal mark. That mark meant something huge. You didn't have to weigh or test the metal yourself anymore. The king was vouching for its value. Historians consider this the birth of coinage as we know it, government-backed money you could trust without inspecting it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, China was solving the same problem from a completely different angle. By the Tang and Song dynasties, merchants were dealing with so many heavy strings of copper coins that carrying them became a genuine physical burden. So they started leaving the coins with trusted merchants and carrying paper receipts instead, called flying cash, because it was light enough to blow away. Within a few centuries, that receipt system evolved into something remarkable. The world's first government-issued paper currency, hundreds of years before Europe would try anything similar. Not every currency looked anything like what we'd recognize today. On the tiny Pacific island of Yap, communities used enormous carved stone discs, called rai, some over 10 feet wide, as currency. Here's the strange part. The stones almost never moved. Everyone on the island just remembered, collectively, who owned which stone. Ownership was a shared memory, not a physical possession, a concept that sounds oddly familiar if you've ever heard someone try to explain a digital ledger. Every one of these systems, shells, coins, paper, giant stones, was solving the exact same problem. How do you get strangers to trust each other enough to trade without a direct swap? Each solution just moved trust from a person to an object and eventually to an institution. For most of the next 2,000 years, money kept circling back to precious metal because gold and silver solved the trust problem in a very physical way. They were rare, they didn't rot, and everyone, in nearly every culture, already agreed they were valuable. Entire empires eventually tied their currencies directly to gold reserves, promising that every note you held could, in theory, be exchanged for a fixed amount of actual metal sitting in a vault. That system, known as the gold standard, held the global economy together for generations, right up until the 20th century, when nations, one by one, started cutting the cord, deciding that trust in a government's promise could stand on its own, without a vault of gold behind it. Today, that same problem has just changed shape again. Instead of trusting a shell or a coin, we trust a bank's server, a blockchain, or a number displayed on a screen. Different technology, same 4,000-year-old question. How do we get someone to hand over something valuable based on nothing but a shared belief that it will work? The next time you tap your card without thinking twice, remember, you're not just making a payment. You're using the latest version of a trust machine humans have been rebuilding, again and again, since the very first goat farmer got tired of waiting for a shoemaker. If you liked digging into this one, follow along. There's a lot more hiding behind the ordinary things we do without ever asking why.